Hey everyone, I'm Jason, and this is your commentary on Genesis chapter 21. The Lord was gracious to Sarah, just as he said he would be. He did for Sarah what he had promised to do. Sarah became pregnant. She had a son by Abraham when he was old. He was born at the exact time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah had by him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him. He did it exactly as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Remember, when Abraham first left Haran, because of God telling him to leave, he was only 75 at that time. So this has been 25 years now that Abraham's been waiting on God's promise, and it's finally become fulfilled. Often we want God to hurry up and things that God has promised us. We hope that it goes by a lot faster. Can we actually be as patient as Abraham by waiting 25 years for something? Sarah said, "God has given laughter to me. Everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." She continued, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? But I've had a son by him when he is old." Isaac grew. The time came for his mother to stop nursing him. On that day, Abraham had a big dinner prepared. So normally they would nurse between 2 years of age, upwards of 5 years of age. But Sarah saw Ishmael making fun of Isaac. Ishmael was the son Hagar had by Abraham. Hagar was Sarah's servant from Egypt. Ishmael would have been somewhere between 13 to 17 years old, depending upon how old Isaac was. Sarah said to Abraham, "Get rid of that slave woman. Get rid of her son. The slave woman's son will never have a share of the family's property with my son Isaac." What Sarah said upset Abraham very much. After all, Ishmael was his son. But God said to him, "Do not be upset about the boy and your servant Hagar. Listen to what Sarah tells you, because your family line will continue through Isaac. I will make the son of your servant into a nation also. I will do it because he is your child." The promise to Abraham is that he would be the father of many nations. And so God is fulfilling that promise because now he has Isaac and he also has Ishmael, both of which are going to become great nations. Early the next morning, Abraham got some food and a bottle of water. The bottle was made out of animal skin. He gave the food and water to Hagar. He placed them on her shoulders. Then he sent her away with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the bottle was gone, she put the boy under a bush. Then she went off and sat down nearby. She was about as far away as a person can shoot an arrow. She thought, "I can't stand to watch the boy die." As she sat nearby, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying. Then the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. He said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up. Take him by the hand. I will make him into a great nation." It's fascinating to me the fact that Hagar is sobbing and so is the boy, and God's response is, "I heard the crying of the child." I think it's amazing how children instinctively have a relationship with God. I know as my own kids, they can easily talk about hearing from God and hearing what God says, and yet it's so difficult for us as adults to have that same openness to a relationship with God. Then God opened Hagar's eyes. She saw a well of water, so she went and filled the bottle with water, and she gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and learned to shoot with a bow. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got him a wife from Egypt. Now, here, she gets him a wife from Egypt because that's where she's from. She's from Egypt. So, of course, that's where Ishmael's wife is going to be from. With Isaac, he's going to get a wife from the land of Sarah and Abraham. And part of that goes back to, not only do you go back to your family, but you also go back to your old ways, whatever they are. And so Ishmael is probably going to adapt the religions of Egypt at the time, whereas Abraham wants Isaac to stay true to the new faith that they have by staying with the family belief. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol spoke to Abraham. Phicol was the commander of Abimelech's army. They said, "God is with you in everything you do. Now make a promise to me here while God is watching. Take an oath that you will treat me fairly. Promise that you will treat my children and their children the same way." Now, we said before, Abimelech is more of a title, so it could have been the same Abimelech as before, but it could have also been a different Abimelech. It's just the king of that area at that time. "I've been kind to you. Now you be kind to me, and be kind to the country where you are living as an outsider." Abraham said, "I promise with an oath that I'll do it." Then Abraham objected to Abimelech about what Abimelech's servants had done. They had taken over a well of water. Now, wells back then were extremely important. They were the primary source for gathering water, and without water, there was no real chance for life. As we just saw with Ishmael and Hagar, it's the water that saved them. So the image of well is used throughout Scripture as being the source of life. And that's why it was so important for them whenever they argued over who owned which well. But Abimelech said, "I don't know who has done this. You didn't tell me. Today is the first time I heard about it." So Abraham gave Abimelech sheep and cattle. The two men made a peace treaty. Then Abraham took out 7 female lambs from his flock. Abimelech asked Abraham, "What's the meaning of these 7 female lambs? Why have you taken them out and put them by themselves?" Abraham replied, "Accept the 7 lambs from me. They will be a witness that I dug this well." That place was named Beersheba. That's because there the two men made a promise with an oath. If you remember from the previous chapter, it actually went the other way with that Abimelech, who gave to Abraham sheep and cattle, and that was part of his saying, I am innocent of any wrongdoing. And so often these gifts were given to the other party to let you know that they were sincere, that what they said was true, and that they were innocent of any wrongdoing. After the peace treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech went back to the land of the Philistines. His army commander, Phicol, went with him. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba. There he worshipped the Lord, the God who lives forever. Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. All right, well, that is the end of Genesis chapter 21. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.